Okay, guys, so I'm very excited to get into our first system. So the near side underhook system. So this is a very good play. So we're going to speak on the essentials of the near side underhook before we progress. So we are going to start in our half guard. When we get into our half guard, it's very traditional that you take the far side underhook. We are going to neglect that right now, and we're going to focus more on the near side, okay? So there's a couple essentials that I want you guys to have as you're passing with this. So number one is I need a near side underhook, obviously, right? So when I grab under, I'm going to palm just like a snake candy cane on his AC joint here, just like so, okay? The reason why I'm doing this is because I need a ton of leverage to flare my elbow. So I found grabbing the AC joint provides the best benefit for that. So when I grab the AC joint, it's really gonna allow me to start flaring my elbow north, okay? That's gonna prevent him from being able to bring his arm down, okay? If I just post my arm on the floor, or I have a short arm, so even if I grab around here, if Jeremy decides to pull his elbow down to a zip, he can do so. But when I grab the AC joint and I really flare there and he tries to do the same thing, he's going to find that it's going to be very difficult to do so. So really flaring the near side AC joint or the near side underhook, it's going to be very critical. Second thing we need to do is understand our head positioning. We're going to a far side head post, and I need to be cross body from Jeremy. So typically when we have a near side underhook, it doesn't matter if they have the far side, okay? We'll let him have the underhook, that's okay. That's where the head post comes into play. I want to take my head, and I'm not going to post my head like this, okay? Look where my shoulder is in the relationship with his head. This isn't going to provide me any benefits. What I actually want to do is I want to imagine a line with his chin going all the way out horizontally. I need my head below that line and on the outside of the shoulder. If I do that correctly, what that's going to provide me is my shoulder being fairly squared and vertical underneath his chin, which is going to present me a great deal of control in this position. So as I get here, I post my head below and on the outside of the shoulder. Now you can see that my own shoulder is in the middle of his chin. I'm not trying to press it in, okay? I just need it right below. Now I'm flaring my elbow up here, just like so. So I have a flared elbow and I have a correct head post. The last thing we're gonna achieve here is taking his knees and shuffling them in the far direction. So I'm going to get on my toes and I'm going to use my left quad right here. I'm going to make connection right there with him, and I'm going to walk into the far direction here. Remember, your right hand is free. So your right hand can be committed on the floor, helping you negate your movement. And also, when you do eventually get the knees turned, our free hand now can start collecting the bottom side knee as I'm help free my knee over, okay? Now we're just potentially into our quarter guard. From here, he did a great job about framing to the inside position, just like so, as he should. So from here, I'm gonna take my inside hand and I'm gonna start pummeling in. As I pummel in, I'm gonna look to gain the other AC joint, just like so. Once I achieve this, I'm gonna take my head and post above his. Notice that I'm flaring both of my elbows out. This helps me keep his elbows up, but it also acts as post for me in case he goes and tries to bridge. From here, he still has my ankle. So we're in quarter guard, so once I get here and I post my head, I'm gonna take my far side leg, I'm gonna use my toes to go to the inside of his knee. It's gonna be very difficult to break his legs with his knees being off at that angle. But when we bring it to the middle, it becomes very weak. So when I go to break now, I can break and cross
underneath his legs to still inside space. And I'm gonna bring my hips in and bring my knees out the floor. That's how we're providing the pressure. From here, since we're in a double under scenario, I can walk his arms up and start setting up for a kata katami or maybe a S-mount variation.
Okay, guys, so this part of the video, now we're going to be talking about how to get to the near side underhook, but also against the elbow post. And this is a very common thing that's naturally going to happen, especially when your training partner has the far side underhook. So we're going to be looking at this from the half guard position. So Jeremy has the underhook on this far side, okay? So as he starts to make do with this underhook by sitting up into me and creating an elbow post, something that I want to make sure that happens, and stay right where you are, Jeremy, is I want to make sure that his chest, if we're looking at like a window or a wall, I don't want his horizontal, by the way. I don't want his chest to come any further forward. If he does manage to be able to get on this side, there might come a point in time to where it might be just impossible to stop him from coming all the way, right? It might be very tough to be able to get him driven back to that side. So he might wrestle all the way up, and now we're going to end up in different scenarios. Something that I'm not trying to let happen right now, right? Because we're trying to work for that near side underhook. So when we naturally get here, I want to make sure that I'm keeping his body, okay, primarily his torso, on this side of the wall. And the way that we achieve that is, number one, is I don't never want to be too high, right? I'm still sagging my weight down, making sure that the front side of my torso is in the front side of his torso. And I'm pinching down here, just like so. So that hand here, the nubs that were behind the elbow, I'm going to reach around and grab on the back side of his elbow post, just like so. The trick is I don't want to press into this man. If I press here, I'm pressing into his elbow and also his torso, which makes him very strong. What I actually want to do now is I want to cut an angle into this direction. And the way that I achieve that is as I press down into this direction over here, I'm also going to turn my hips. That's going to allow me to keep my left knee pinched on the bottom side of his hip so that I can keep that inside space with my knee. So when I go to turn, you're going to see that my arm is going to also perform a tricep extension. So I'll show this real quick. So when I go to turn, I tricep extend, just like so. So you can see my left knee is pinched into his hip line, just like so, okay? And my left arm tricep extends really, really wide. The reason why this is working so well is as Jeremy is on his side, if I try right now to press away with the elbow post, it's probably, I mean, it's not going to work at all. And the reason why is he is now performing a lot of tension with his lat muscle here, okay? Because his arm is able to press here. And any kind of like pressure, like pull down motion here, you're going to be using that big muscle group with your lat. So this makes him super strong. The moment in time that I can get Jeremy flat and I can turn his body, as I go to turn his body flat and press his arm out this way, now instead of him having this type of motion where he's pulling down with his lat, I'm actually making him perform this type of motion here. Almost like you're grabbing a dumbbell for shoulder raises. This motion here is always going to be weaker than here, okay? So we're going to make sure that our tricep extension is fighting against his shoulder raises there, because my movement is always going to be stronger than his in that particular movement. So we're back up from a overhook and elbow post. So as I get here, I don't want to pull out. Look, I'm pushing into this direction. So without me pushing into him, it's just not going to happen. But the moment in time that I rotate his body to the floor, now when I go to press out, it's going to become far more easier for me. Once we get here, I'll rotate up and I grab onto the AC joint. Notice I far side head posted. Once I get here, I'm going to walk, climb over, pummel under, head post, bring it to the middle, pass, and work up for my kata katami. Okay, guys, so very excited to get to this one. Now we're going to kind of talk about what exactly needs to happen against a shrimping opponent. So we are going to play, let's actually start from this side, big guy. Yeah, head this way. There you go. So from this position, okay, same thing as we talked about previously is I want to take my nubs and stick them underneath the elbow just to make sure that we're having inside space and we can go ahead and start getting into a near side underhook when possible, okay? But on this particular play, when we go and sit into this position here, sometimes things, aren't as active and he shrimps out. That's all we're looking for on this particular play. It's when that shrimp gets made. Maybe he wants to put this leg inside for a half butterfly, put it on my hip, whatever the case may be, right? So he needs space in order to do so. So what happens here is, as you can tell, his bottom leg right now is bent. It's keeping a pretty good hold of my inside leg. As I get into this position, when he goes to shrimp outward, stop right there, you'll notice right now that his leg became far more extended. It's not as bent as it once was. So when that occurs, I'm going to take my leg and I'm going to pummel in to out, just like so. Now I'm shin pinning on top of his bottom side leg. When this occurs, my left knee has the job of staying above his bottom side knee. If that doesn't happen and there's space here, he can slide that knee up to my hip, and now he's going to put me into a different situation. So we need to stay above that knee, just like so, okay? Now, when we get into this position, stay on your hip, when we get into this position, and you'll notice that his knee's touching, when I go to push Jeremy flat on his back, you're going to see that his knee starts to raise out of the floor, okay? So don't let it come extended, stay bent like it is now. It's just naturally going to come out the floor, okay? So that is exactly what I want in this moment here is when I start to push into him, okay, my toes are loaded. So when I push into him, the knee that was on top of preventing him from sliding his knee up is also now going to have more work to do, because when I go to push into him, I'm going to connect the inside of my knee to the top side of his knee, and I'm going to shift my hips out, and I'm going to walk into the far side direction as I go ahead into my near side underhook essentials. Okay? From here, my left hand is flaring out of a far side hip post, and my right hand is in front of his hips, blocking. Okay? This prevents him from using a shrimp method to gain space away from me, hip to hip, but also I can go inside for a far side underhook if need be. But from this position, since I have a near side underhook, he's not capable of stiff arming on my hip on the same side, so I can easily use this position to start walking up into more of a conventional side control and to get that pass. Still sticking with our near side underhooks, something that naturally occurs, as I talked about in our previous section, was Kimuras. So we are going to troubleshoot against a Kimura. So from a early stage of a Kimura, we are going to kind of look at a couple of things that just naturally happens that's going to benefit us in gaining back exposure. So when I play tight into this position, like I said previously, it's important about elbow position being to your hip, not giving up any inside positioning, and making sure that we're nudging our nubs right there behind his elbow. These are key. When we start to play here, when he starts to reach up for this Kimura, notice that he went to an elbow post for one, and it makes space between his rib cage and his elbow. But notice his left arm right now is reaching around my shoulder. The more that he reaches for his right wrist, the more that his shoulder indents down. The more that his shoulder indents down, more space opens up on this side here. So when that happens, all I'm worried about doing is taking my hand 5 fingers over the top here, just like so, and I'm gonna look to crash Jeremy down on his shoulder, just like so. When that happens, I'm gonna wrist roll my left hand out of his right hand, and when I get here, I'm gonna reach under for the lower trap for a claw grip, okay? When we get here, you'll notice that my right leg is still in play. So I'm gonna load my toes up from this position, and I'm gonna look to far side knee cut, or near side knee cut perhaps, to here. Once again, I'm still in quarter guard. So from this position, he can only stay a hold of my ankle if he can bring his knees to his chest. So my left post is gonna come to the top side of his knee on the bottom. So when I lift my hips and turn my knee to the right, he is no longer able to follow. Soon as I get here, we perform a chair sit by bringing my knee close to his head. My left heel is in front of his belly button, but I'm turning my toes towards his quad so that flares my knee open. From here, I'm going to obtain chest to spine connection. When I'm going to make this play, I pull his spine up with my chest, head position in, and we're falling to the side for our back take. From here, we have a perfect opportunity to start setting up straight jacket methods because of us having that far side hand trapped. So once we trap the far side, top side hand, we can start switching, collecting, and then finishing. Okay, guys, you made it through to the last section. Very happy that you're here. Now let's touch on how to troubleshoot against a half butterfly hook. And as you're growing and you're going against more skillful Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, this here is going to be one of the questions or one of these things that you're going to have to troubleshoot against, because the frequency of this happening is going to be a lot. So when I start to play into my near side underhook, so we get a near side underhook, I get a head post, and I start to walk. Something that can naturally occur here is my turning partner putting a half butterfly hook in on the left side, just like so, okay? So here, now he has availability to start elevating me. And that is not what I want. So from this position, what I'm looking to do is, number one, right now, you see his right leg, almost kind of like we're still in half guard. He's going to take that right leg and he's going to hold onto my foot, just like so. So all I'm going to do from here is flex my toes down, and I'm just going to weave out so I can post, just like so, okay? I want to post horizontally. Now, he has a hook to the inside, okay? So that means if he has a hook, we get a hook, okay? So I pummel my left leg on top, so we both share a hook now, okay? From here, we have several different plays. Play number one, okay, is I can pass over the knee if permitted. So I'm going to take my free hand. I'm going to push on his leg here. My quad is connected to a shin. I don't want to make a big space or a big movement here. I want to keep everything nice and connected and to get my hamstring on the top of his quad. So I go toes down,
And I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3. Keep your knee up. Push your knee back through, Jeremy. It's gonna be very difficult because my hamstring. So now when I get up and over, I'm gonna heel down to my butt. And as I go to pass my right leg, at the same time, my left leg's passing off, and I'm collecting inside space at the bottom, okay, by crossing my feet. From here, we pass with a near side underhook, which once we pass, gives us a perfect opportunity to start setting up Kata Katana.